I want to dedicate this video to Dr. James Dobson. Everybody knows he's one of the best known religious writers, and he's been politically active since the late 70s, early 1980s, and he's still around. He used to have Focus on the Family, the organization, until he split from that, and I think they kind of pushed him out. And now he's got his own outfit today, and he's about 84 now, and he still has his podcast radio program. But the reason I want to dedicate this to him is because I thought this was really good news. He would call this a disaster. So it's kind of an irony that I would say I would dedicate this to him. But the good news here is that the U.S. marriage rate has hit a historic low. This article was written back in April, as the coronavirus was taken over the country, and people were more and more isolated. But anyway, that's when the article was written. But the marriage rate reached a historic low in 2018, according to federal data spanning more than a century. Social and economic shifts in the U.S. are visible through the lens of the country's marriage rate, measured as the number of marriages per 1,000 people. That rate has fluctuated since the early 1900s, most notably around times of great historical significance, according to the report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. For example, the marriage rate reached 12 per 1,000 in 1929, the advent of the Great Depression, before falling to 7.9 in 1932. It then began a sporadic but upward climb, reaching an all-time high of 16.4 as the country emerged from World War II in 1946. And that was the start of the baby boom and all that stuff. And of course, other factors were involved, like the GI Bill, and also the tax laws were revamped. So then you had tax breaks for marriage and dependents, where before there were people just filed an individual return, which we need to return to that. But anyway, that's what they did, and it helped spur the jumps in marriages. So anyway, it goes on. It says the marriage rate fluctuated for the most part until the early 80s, the data shows. And I've written about this in my blog, that marriage rates were real high through the 50s and through the 60s, and the ridiculously young marriages that happened then, and the shotgun marriages and the teenage marriages, all that stuff was really common. Like when I was in high school, back when I graduated in 1973, a lot of the girls I graduated with, they got married within months of graduation. A couple of them got married before they even graduated from high school, and very few married after age 25, which, looking back at it from the viewpoint of the 21st century of 2020, year of 2020, it seems like it's a ridiculously young age, and it is. You don't even know what the hell you want out of life, but here people were doing this. But anyway, from the article says from 1982 to 2009, marriage rates fell fairly steadily, and then hovered around 6.8 to 7 per 1,000 through 2017. In 2018, the rate fell to 6.5, the lowest level in the 100-year period covered by a new report, and the lowest recorded since 1867, the first year which federal government data on national marriage is available. And this has been a trend, as it states, it's been a trend that's been going on for 40 years. And it's not a pendulum swing. Now, this article quotes people that think, well, because of the coronavirus, it's going to bottom out even lower. And when this is over, then the marriage rates will go up. Well, it's kind of on the way out. And I've always said that marriage was on the way out. It's just going to be out of existence, just evolve out of existence, which in the eyes of Dobson and his ilk, that could be would be the ruination of civilization, despite the fact that civilizations and people have existed long before there was marriage. So obviously you don't need marriage to continue society. But anyway, I thought it was good news, and they attribute this trend is, of course, women's independence and gender sex equality. I don't like the word gender. Is a huge factor in the long-term decline in marriage. Of course it is, because women don't think there's a whole lot to whatever. There's not a whole lot a benefit to it, to getting married like in the old days. Although it's still a heavily rigged economic system against women in order to get them to marry. That's mostly why they're underpaid. But anyway, I think it's good news. I don't want to go back to the stinking 50s where everybody did the same thing, and this article notes that, well, there could be some problems down the road because some older people, if they don't get married when they're young, there's nobody there to take care of them, and so on and so on. Well, that's just something that has to be dealt with when it's dealt with, but the answer is not to go back to the 50s. So anyway, I thought this was good news, and I thought I would share it.